A senior US official reportedly said that Trump was keen to change his cabinet team before launching into high-stakes negotiations with the DPRK. Earlier today, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said it welcomed any efforts which were aimed at bringing peace to the Korean Peninsula.
The
United States and the DPRK have finally expressed a political willingness to conduct direct dialogue, and this must be encouraged and supported. We hope the meetings between the DPRK and the ROK, the US DPRK dialogue, can go smoothly. President Xi Jinping has made it clear to President Trump that he hopes the United States and the DPRK can start their engagement and dialogue at an early date and try to reap positive results.
Well, for more on the story, I'm joined by Nathan King from Washington, D.C., and Deji Badmus joins me from Lagos. Let's start with you, Nathan. Did the president say why he sacked Secretary of State Tillerson?
Well, as we heard in that soundbite there from the president before he went to California today, just a few yards behind me, that he basically disagreed with Rex Tillerson when it came to the Iran nuclear deal, but there were others as well. It was interesting that he left out the DPRK, North Korea. Tillerson's view was to push for diplomatic negotiations. That was actually opposed by US President Trump until a few days ago when he did his 180 and said that he would meet with Kim Jong-un. And then just a few hours or few days later, depending on who you believe in the timing of this firing, Rex Tillerson himself is ousted. It wasn't just a difference of policy, it was also a difference of emphasis. The personalities didn't go. But also, Rex Tillerson opposed the moving of the US Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. He also, in the last 24 hours, tweeted out that he was adamant that Russia had been behind the killing of the former agent in Britain. That is something this White House has not explicitly said yet. So perhaps that tweet came into it as well, but we never really know. And there's a big debate going on right now about how he was fired. The State Department spokesman who said that Rex Tillerson didn't know this was coming and found out from a tweet has essentially been fired as well. So we'll have to wait and see what exactly happened. But he is now the outgoing Secretary of State to be replaced by CIA Director Mike Pompeo if he's confirmed by the US Senate.
Okay, Nathan, we'll return to you in a moment. Let's now talk to Deji, who's in Lagos for us. Nigeria was the last country Rex Tillerson visited as the Secretary of State. Has there been any reaction to these developments there?
Well, to be candid, we haven't had any official reaction at all. The government hasn't said anything about that. And I don't think the government would say anything about that because, I mean, you can just say it's not the business of the Nigerian government. It's the business of the President of the United States and the United States government. But of course, people have been reacting to it here. People are actually surprised that Rex Tillerson has been removed as the Secretary of State. People are surprised just because less than 24 hours ago, he was here meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari. So what a lot of people are asking now is what actually happens going forward. I mean, considering what the discussion they had less than 24 hours ago. But in terms of official reaction, there's been none, and I don't think there's going to be any at all. Karen?
Okay, we'll return to you in a moment, Deji. Now let's return to Nathan. What do we know about Tillerson's successor, Mike Pompeo?
Yeah, Mike Pompeo, just before I get that, I just want to pick up on Deji's point. You know, you don't send your Secretary of State for a high-profile tour in Africa if you're about to fire him, especially after the comments you made about African countries. It's a bit of a slap in the face for African diplomats and leaders, although they probably won't say that publicly. Let's get on to Mike Pompeo. Yeah, he's definitely ideologically aligned with US President Trump. He was part of the Tea Party movement back in the Obama days, from a very conservative district in Kansas that he served in Congress. He's a big hawk with the CIA, especially when it comes to the DPRK. He not only wanted to pressure the maximum pressure campaign over the ballistic missiles and nuclear testing, but also believes that the Pyongyang government too should be got rid of in some way or another. He's also talked about proliferation from Pyongyang when it goes to Iran, for example, something that has not been proven at all. So he's a bit of a hawk, and it's very interesting that he's being brought up now as the White House scrambles to prepare for this meeting before the end of May. He's also very, very anti-Iran, especially the nuclear deal. That decision comes up again in a couple of months, where US President has to decide whether to continue essentially with that agreement or renege on it, which of course would be very interesting if they could trying to pursue a deal with the DPRK at the same time. So it's a very interesting choice. He has to, of course, be confirmed by the Senate. That looks likely because they've already confirmed him by the CIA. But this is a much more hawkish turn when it comes to foreign policy. And we're told that there may be more reshuffles in the White House when it comes to other senior personnel in the coming days as well.
Okay, Nathan, thank you for that. Deji, now back to you. While in Nigeria, he reiterated the US's support in helping Nigeria fight terrorism. Does this development in any way affect the cooperation that Nigeria has with the United States?
Well, I do not think so. I mean, this relationship, the relationship Nigeria has with the United States, you know, is on track. I don't think the removal of Rex Tillerson now would affect it in any way, and I still do not think it will affect the relationship the United States now has with the entire continent. I don't think it will affect it in any way. It's just as Nathan said, it's quite embarrassing that you would send you know, your top diplomat to the continent when you know you'd be removing him in just a question of hours. But you know, what people will be looking up to in Nigeria and of course across the continent is what happens next. Rex Tillerson, of course, made a lot of pledges, commitments now on behalf of the United States of America. People will be looking to see if Mike Pompeo will continue along that line. I want to believe Rex Tillerson now spoke on behalf of the United States government. So it's just a question of wait and see. And of course, another thing people want to see is whether Mike Pompeo would now embark on his own African tour. Well, we have to wait and see if that happens in the coming days, months, or we just don't know. But it's certainly not too good at all when, you know, to send your Secretary of State to the continent when, in fact, you know, you would be removing him. And, well, but we still do not think. I don't think, and I've spoken to quite, some people here, some diplomats here, and they still do not think it will in any way affect the relationship between Nigeria and the United States, or that of Africa and the United States as a whole.
Okay, Deji Badmus in Lagos, thank you, and also to Nathan King earlier in Washington, D.C. Thank you both for that update.